This year marks a great victory for the powerful Armenian diaspora in the U.S. and anti-Turkish groups supporting it. Mr. President, your recognition of the Armenian genocide is a move that rights a historic wrong. It only sends a morally necessary message to the people of Armenia on behalf of the United States. It also sends a message to the world, a message that your administration is committed to promoting respect for human rights and ensuring such atrocities are not repeated. Denial of genocide has direct consequences and implications, and it is a clear path to repetition of those terrible crimes. To this day, Turkey denies ever committing such acts and spreads anti-Armenian sentiment and propaganda. Its youth is taught to hate Armenians and deny the genocide. It is this denial of genocide that helped enable other genocides. Just a few months ago, towns and churches were destroyed, families torn apart, all for the sake of wiping out the Armenian people. Armenia faced the atrocities of genocide and ethnic cleansing once again, and the world let it happen. If atrocities like this can be committed without any repercussions, then human rights can be destroyed and taken away at any time. That cannot be the world we live in.
But Ev, I'm Glendale City Mayor Paula Devine. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, Glendale's 20th annual Armenian Genocide Commemoration event is once again being held virtually instead of at the Alex Theater to ensure the health and the safety of our community. This event has become a staple of our community as we gather to commemorate and honor all those lost 106 years ago and more recently during the war in Artsakh. The Armenian community has suffered through injustices for decades as one of humanity's greatest atrocities continues to go unrecognized. There has been some progress in the United States with last year's resolution approved by the House and the Senate recognizing the Armenian genocide. However, today, the Armenian community mourns for the young men and women who fought in Artsakh and saw another injustice play out in modern times. This year's commemoration not only pays tribute to the millions of lives lost 106 years ago, but it also pays homage to the martyrs, the survivors, and the heroes of Artsakh. We hope this program continues to uplift the voices of those seeking justice, encourages a movement towards national recognition of the Armenian genocide, and moves the global community towards demanding the release of Armenian prisoners of war from Azerbaijan. While we commemorate lives lost, it is also important that we acknowledge the millions more it has instilled with unflinching resolve and an enduring passion for life. And now, without further ado, I hope you enjoy the 20th Annual Armenian Genocide Commemoration event. Merci.
A 100 years ago, the young Turk government of the Ottoman Empire decided to deport and eventually massacre somewhere between 600,000 and 1 million plus Armenians. I'm Ron Suni. I'm a professor at the University of Michigan. I'm a historian, an author, and I'm Armenian. By the end of World War I, 90% of the Armenians of the Ottoman Empire are gone, either massacred, deported, or fled. They lost their own historic homeland, they lost a whole civilization, let alone the physical destruction of ordinary people. This is considered the first major genocide of the 20th century. The Turkish government officially denies that this was a genocide. They have argued in different ways. It didn't happen, it was a civil war, the Armenians were rebels, all we wanted to do was deport them, we didn't massacre them. They refused to use the word genocide. My grandfather decided there's no future for Armenians here. We're leaving. His family, all of those who stayed in Yozgat, were killed in 1915. I'm Armenian, born in America, but raised culturally in a certain way. But I'm also a scholar, and my loyalty is largely to what I would call historical truth, trying to find out what happened and explain why it happened. As a scholar and historian, to try to tell the story so that people of various nationalities, Armenians, Turks, Kurds, Americans, Germans, Lithuanians, could all understand what happened and come to conclusions about what is definitely, indisputably, a genocide.
I'm Arman Tatoyan, the human rights defender of Armenia. Since September 27, military forces of Azerbaijan carry out targeted intensive strikes and shellings towards civilian settlements and peaceful population of Armenia and Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh. Attacks are indiscriminate and in most cases targeted with clear purpose to cause as much damage to civilians as possible, including casualties, killings and mass destructions. This is already proved not only by targeted air and artillery attacks, their grave consequences, but also by repeated use of forbidden cluster munitions, cluster warhead missiles towards villages and cities, schools and kindergartens, Armenian cultural heritage. Mercenaries and members of ISIS-affiliated terrorist groups from Libya, Afghanistan, northern parts of Syria, and other countries are being recruited and deployed to Azerbaijan to fight against population of Armenia and Artsakh. This is already an internationally proved fact. All above mentioned is accompanied with massive hate speech and aggressive calls for violence, including killings from Turkish and Azerbaijani media and social network sources towards ethnic Armenians. Children are targeted with social media attacks illustrating violence and torture, and these enjoy state support from Azerbaijan. All these factors clearly demonstrate the policy of ethnic cleansing and terror-inspiring means by Azerbaijan against the Armenian civilian population. These have already caused humanitarian disaster and sufferings for thousands of peaceful, innocent people, including children, women, and elderly. I call upon international worldwide community for urgent steps. It is time to act through real steps, rather formal calls or nice speeches at conferences. An immediate end has to be put to this ongoing humanitarian disaster, mass destructions and casualties. Every minute and every second counts. Don't be blind. Don't close your eyes.
It's very good of you to ask, but unfortunately I don't understand what you're saying.
Bells and banana phones are calling it a metaphor. The ones who wear the hats to have their say. They'll trade it like a penny stock, sell a soul with every rock, leave a little sand so we can pray. 'Cause there's a war, child can't sleep tonight. There's a war, child can't sleep tonight. Ponies on the merry-go-round about the phonies. It's a carnival you never want to go. See, the clowns are juggling all the happiness they're smuggling, trying to make us think they'll never really know. There's war, child can't sleep tonight. There's war, child can't sleep tonight. One for the blood, three for the bread. There's a reason why no one ever heeds what he said. 'Cause 23 years is just a bit too long to learn that every little piece is just a little bit wrong in this war, child.
On September 27, 2020, our lives changed here in Armenia.
For some of us, this is not the first war we have experienced in our lifetimes.
And generations before ours, genocide struck our homeland.
History has repeated itself.
To be Armenian is to stand together with those in our community.
As we strive for peace, we remain resilient.
We draw strength from our heritage, those who came before us and had to rebuild this nation.
We gain inspiration from those beside us now in this fight.
We look around at our homes, our friends and families, this vast and beautiful land, this special culture. We carry it with us as we unite to protect it.
A world without us, you will not see.
We are eternal like the mountains.
You limit us, we go further. You silence us, we roar like lions.
Our connection you cannot ever break.
The hospitality, helpfulness, and openness of our culture still shines bright.
We remain thoughtful, vibrant, determined. We pray for peace and still look for the beauty in all things.
Our spirits are lifted by our love for each other and the love of our land. What I am certain of beyond doubt is that Armenia and her people will live on, standing stronger than ever.
What I'm certain of is that we will continue to get together with our food, our language, and our songs in our homeland, erasing fear and embracing love.
A world without us, you will not see.
Armenia is eternal.
And when talking about recognition of the genocide, we should not only commemorate the victims of the genocide, the victims of Artsakh war, but for the sake of their souls to rest in peace, we have to gain justice. And one of the tasks is not to allow this to happen again. Not in Turkey, not in the Caucasus, not anywhere else. Because we all know that the goal is against us, is extermination of the Armenian nation. And we should not sit and wait until Artsakh becomes part of our history that cannot be taken back. We have to act now before we lose Artsakh. We have to act to be strong again, to have the Artsakh we had before the war.
For a century, Armenians have righteously asked for recognition and reparations. 106 years later, and the threat of Turkey eliminating Armenians still exists. I know this has been an incredibly challenging year for Armenians, those at home and the diaspora. Yet the Armenian people have remained strong, committed, and driven to withstand these attacks and to speak up against hatred, denialism, and violence.
Today, we commemorate the 106 years that have passed since the Armenian Genocide, to remember those that we lost and to say that we will never forget. While we can never undo the atrocities of this dark chapter in human history, we must remain committed that we will never forget and we will never again be intimidated into silence. Please, stay safe and stay healthy.
This year, the atrocities in Artsakh underscore just how important it is for all of us to stand in solidarity with the Armenian community in California and throughout the world. No one should have been unprovoked attacked. We've lost lives, we've lost property, we've lost schools, and we've lost churches. That's just unacceptable. So God bless everyone today who's holding hands spiritually and emotionally in support of the Armenian genocide recognition, and to say stop the hate, stop the attacks on schools, and stop denying the genocide.
To honor the memories of those who suffered and lost their lives, our Board of Supervisors will recognize April 24th, 2021 as Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day in Los Angeles County. The Armenian community is resilient and will not be silenced.
Today, like in past years, I'm here with you on April 24th to honor and respect the souls of the 1.5 million Armenians, our ancestors, who were tortured and killed in the most inhuman ways by the Turks. This is the Armenian Genocide. But was the genocide of April 1915 any different than what happened in November of 2020? This was not a war between the Armenians and the Azeris. The Turks took over the land dispute between the Azeris and the Armenians and fought by proxy the war for the Azeris. Yes, their Caspian Sea oil money and U.S. aid purchased sophisticated Harop and Bayraktar drones and magnesium bombs to fight Armenians, killing thousands of civilians and soldiers and occupying 80% of Artsakh. We have not recovered from the pain of the 1915 genocide, yet here we are mourning the new pain of the loss of our lands, our soldiers, and civilians. In 1915, Talat Pasha proudly announced that we Turks will annihilate all Armenians. And what the Turks did not accomplish in 1915, they are planning now. In memory of my grandfather, Hagop Najarian, a survivor of the genocide, a missionary, a teacher in Kesab, I will honor him by reciting the verse that I promised to remember always and pass on. Aiskan charik te moranan mer vortik, tog voksh ashkar garta hayun nachadink. Yes, we cannot forget. How can we?
A group of businessmen and leaders will come together in New York with a sense of urgency to form a committee of what would come to be known as Near East Relief by 1918.
What started in a New York boardroom spread across the country, stirring the conscience of the nation.
Near East Relief struck at the heart of something in America.
It was a moment when Americans began to see themselves more deeply as players in a global arena.
Motivated by nothing but a moral sense of duty, the men and women of the Near East Relief helped bring care and comfort to millions of suffering people in extremely harrowing environments.
They answered a call, and many of them died in answering that call. And so I think it's a very important example of early American international humanitarianism.
Now, part of Near East Relief's success had to do with its sophisticated ability to use modern media and advertising techniques in order to promote this humanitarian cause in many clever advertising ways.
It was the cause of the day, and everyone knew the phrase, "Remember the starving Armenians." They pioneered the use of mass media to raise awareness about a philanthropic effort and raised a staggering amount of money for the time, $116 million, the equivalent of over $2 billion in today's dollars. Near East Relief is credited with saving over 1 million lives and raising 132,000 orphans to adulthood. They rescued a generation.
We are here on the shoulders of these orphans. Maybe one thing that unites us all is this story, how they were saved.
NER Chairman James Levi Barton said it best.
This is a narrative of American philanthropy. In all the stories of the Great War, we doubt if there is one more tragic, more colorful, more heroic.
I think at this time of our history, to remind people of what America did stands out as an unusual part of our history that should not be forgotten, but should be remembered again and again.
The fear of Azerbaijan retaking control of Nagorno-Karabakh has also drawn in the Armenian diaspora. Dr. Armen Hagopjanian is a surgeon who flew from Los Angeles 2 days earlier. What are the extent of the injuries you're seeing as a result of Azerbaijani attacks here in the hospital?
Absolutely massive. These are not a simple injury that these kids are suffering. Those are 20, 25-year-old kids that are going to defend their own home. They're defending their own country, and they're being blown to pieces by 21st century mighty weapons.
I'm sure you have quite a comfortable life as a surgeon working in Los Angeles. Was it hard to leave that behind and come here to a war zone?
No, the hardest thing was just to explain to your parents, to your wife, and to your kids that you have to come here and help other kids. That was the most difficult part.
What actually pushed you? Okay, all right.
This is a reality. Usually we get a little siren, so we know we need to go into the bunker. But sometimes siren doesn't work, so we get the bomb before the siren. But it's okay. We're getting used to it.
That the war was progressing, and there was no hope of stopping. And I heard of the injuries that were sustained by our soldiers, which were significantly and dramatically different than the injuries in the past, as opposed to bomb blasts and drone strikes instead of our regular bullets and grenades. I already knew that, everyone should offer any type of assistance, and my specialty is foot and ankle trauma and wound care, which was pretty much what we did almost the whole time I was there. We're almost experiencing a repeat in history in a modern day version, but I say that we've pulled through before. We've always managed to keep our heads above water. So, in these uncertain times, I tell my friends and family members, both Armenian and non-Armenian, don't give up. We don't give up. We fight both intellectually and in any way possible to keep our heritage. And so, hopefully, with some luck and God on our side and our perseverance, and patience, we hope to see positive outcomes in the future.
Արևն արդեն մոտեցել է մայրամուտին, դաշտումի անմեղ լռություն էր տիրում, ու միայն վերքերը վիրավոր հողի հուշում էին, որտեղ պատերազմ է գնում, խրամատի մեջ մի պատանի զինվոր կարոտով նամակ էր գրում, նա հիշում էր տունը հայրենի, զվարած հայոց լեռներում, միլացիրին մայրի սպասիր ինձ, և ես կգամ, ես քեզ շատ եմ սիրում, կարոտել եմ իմ մայրի.
I'm Haigai Tablian, and I'm a senior resident in emergency medicine at UCLA, and I'm also a native of Glendale. Late last year, I went to Armenia and Artsakh during the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, and I went there to help provide combat medical aid. Before I went, I put a call for help asking for medical supplies, and within 2 weeks, a bunch of people that I never even met dropped over $100,000 of medical supplies to my house. It was an incredible experience to see the altruism and the generosity of our community in helping me kind of accomplish this tiny little dent in this huge war. While I was in Armenia, we were able to make a substantial impact. We saw very, very sick patients in the ICUs. We went to 7 different hospitals. We looked at the healthcare network in Armenia, and we thought to ourselves how we could help improve it. I had a few incredible experiences while I was in Armenia. After we would treat patients in the hospitals, we would often meet up at a local's house. And I remember these encounters so well because they were almost always celebrations. We would celebrate life, we would celebrate what we did that day, and the locals would be happy. We would joke, we would laugh, It was never a depressing moment. And I realized this because this was a moment of understanding our survival. We didn't have time to be depressed. We knew that life was happening while we were there each day, that we still had lives to enjoy that day. And this was the theme of the Armenian people, one of survival, and one that I know that we'll share for many, many more centuries to come.
Hello, my name is Tamara Shamaradian, and I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. Today, I'm speaking about and representing the Armenian Mental Health Professionals United. This organization came together to support a mission to provide humanitarian relief in the form of mental health and social services in Armenia during the Artsakh War. This project was self-funded and made possible with the assistance of the Armenian Psychiatric Association, Deputy Prime Minister of Armenia, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Defense, and Chair of Medical Psychology. The group of volunteers that embarked on this mission included 11 professionals under the leadership of Dr. Shushan Kalatarian. These members flew to Armenia on November 6, 2020, and provided mental health services for a little more than 45 days. Team members volunteered 25 to 45 hours each week in various settings, such as 4 military and rehabilitation hospitals, refugee camps, and clinical settings located in Yerevan, Zakhadzor, and Dilijan. Our team provided mental health trauma relief to soldiers, survivors of war, and their families through direct clinical therapeutic services, social services, and domestic services. In total, we were able to service over 2,000 survivors of the Artsakh War. We cannot thank the volunteer professionals enough as they risked their own safety to fly to Armenia to provide humanitarian aid to those in need. This war not only impacted the soldiers that bravely fought, it also impacted the men, women, and children that were a witness to the tragedies. We expect that many individuals may experience mental health issues such as post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety, and depression. With that said, our mission was to bring trauma-informed care to those vulnerable populations in hopes that we can reduce the lasting effects of this war. Intergenerational trauma has impacted our community for generations, also known as the passing on of trauma experiences from parents and grandparents to other generations. As a result of our services, Armenian community members were given the opportunity to deal with their current trauma, reduce stigma around mental health, and get connected to necessary services for long-term treatment, therefore reducing the impact of intergenerational trauma for future generations. Although there is much work to be done, we hope to have raised enough mental health awareness to continue this conversation and support our community to once again thrive.
My name is Misak Khachaturian, and I am a mental health therapist and doctoral candidate in clinical psychology at the Wright Institute in Berkeley, California. Armenian Mental Health's goal was really to establish a centralized online hub where Armenians from around the world could find resources, discover Armenian therapists, learn about themselves, learn about research, and ultimately feel validated in their own experiences. The blog features live discussions with Armenian mental health clinicians and breaks down difficult concepts into understandable and culturally informed parts, and it is catered through educational posts or videos. When the war broke out, Armenian Mental Health was one of the first pages on social media to validate and put into words what we were all feeling, and that was shock, confusion, fear, horror, trauma. We actually didn't know at the time, but these were the early signs of re-traumatization. Throughout the war, the blog was used to continue explaining, teaching, and validating fellow Armenians about their experiences. I personally noticed a demand for mental health resources in our community, and just based off of the increased amount of people reaching out, many people saying they struggled to go to work, everybody was glued to their phones, they were worried and concerned. As the community, we were bonded, but as individuals, we were all burnt out and there was severe emotional suffering. Old wounds were opening up again. Armenian Mental Health collaborated with many therapists and organizations to talk about a variety of topics, including trauma, grief, loss, depression, anger, among other topics. Every person was doing whatever they could to help. The diaspora groups, such as the Armenian American Mental Health Association, the Armenian Mental Health Initiative, the Armenian Mental Health Professionals United, as well as Therapists for Armenia, among others, all arrived to certain roles during the war and did what they can to meet the demands of our community around the world, whether that was in-person therapy, online educational videos, online fundraisers, or simply training hundreds of therapists in Armenia who are providing, first aid and treating war trauma. Surprisingly, the Armenian Mental Health blog also got many messages from people in Armenia who were looking for a therapist or simply wanted resources for a loved one. The blog was used to connect them with the appropriate agencies and resources. Our work continues, and it is hopeful to see that so many are reaching out and taking their mental health seriously. Many Armenians are definitely more open to talking about their experiences after the war. We will go through this, we must get through this, and we have to support each other along the way.
Hello, I'm Dan Brotman, City Council member and proud resident of the city of Glendale, home to one of the largest populations of diaspora Armenians outside of Armenia. Over the years, both as a proactive and engaged resident, as well as an elected official in the city, I've had the unique opportunity to learn about the rich Armenian culture and heritage. I've seen it expressed through art, I've seen it through our local businesses, and I've seen it through the youth. I've also learned about the Armenian struggle, the Armenian cause, and the injustices that Armenians suffered at the hands of the Ottoman Turks, not just 106 years ago this month during the genocide, but to this day at the hands of the modern-day Turkish and Azerbaijani governments. I stand in solidarity with my Armenian brothers and sisters in continuing to demand recognition and justice from the international community and especially from our own federal government. This year is unique because after recognition in Congress last year, newly elected President Biden has an opportunity to keep the explicit promises he made to the Armenian community and recognize the Armenian genocide, and to call it by its name, a genocide. It's time to speak the truth. It's time to acknowledge and recognize the tragedies of history so that we do not repeat them.
Աշխարհի համար դու հարչելուցված մեզ համար պարգև որ տվեց Աստված մեր արյուն արդյուն ու մեր հաղթանա Արցախ հայի տուն մեր պայքար շիտա քեզ համար մի օր մենք ելանք մարտի խաչով ու զենքով որ բարին հաղթի որ հավատքը քո նոր ուժով սարքնի որ ոսկի շողած օրենը ատի քեզ համար մի օր մենք ելանք մարտի խաչով ու զենքով որ բարին հաղթի որ հավատքը քո նոր ուժով սարքնի որ ոսկի շողած օրենը ատի քեզ համար մի օր մենք ելանք մարտի որ հավատքը քո նոր ուժով սարքնի կանգնած են անվախ որ սահմանները միշտ լինեն խաղաղ հնչում են օրից աղոթքով վանքում ապրում է ազատ հայը իր հողում քեզ համար մի օր մենք ելանք մարտի խաչով ու զենքով որ բարին հաղթի որ հավատքը քո նոր ուժով սարքնի որ ոսկի շողած օրենը ատի քեզ համար մի օր մենք ելանք մարտի խաչով ու զենքով որ բարին հաղթի որ հավատքը քո նոր ուժով սարքնի որ ոսկի շողած օրենը ատի քեզ համար մի օր մենք ելանք մարտի որ հավատքը քո նոր ուժով սարքնի քեզ համար մի օր մենք ելանք մարտի որ հավատքը քո նոր ուժով սարքնի
Dear friends and fellow Glendalians, this year marks another year of denial and hatred and violence against the people of Armenia and those who trace their roots to the Armenian highlands. For those who ask why should we remember what the Turks did over 100 years ago, the answer was plainly before our eyes last year as thousands of Armenians were once again murdered and driven from their ancestral lands in Artsakh, all while the world watched and did absolutely nothing. Well, we can do something. We can remember those we've lost. We can continue to call for justice. We can pledge that we will never stand with countries like Turkey and Azerbaijan who commit genocide. And we can work every day to ensure that the world never forgets the Armenian genocide.
100 years ago, a man worked from light. 100 years ago, a man worked from light till dark, usually from 6 to 6 for about. In the first tradition of the
Եղբայրերթան մեր բաղուերգիրը Եղբայրերթան մեր բաղուերգիրը Սույցան կես կարերու հայագանքիրը Սույցան աշխարերու հայագանքիրը Իմ բապուվանքերում հել չի հնչում զանքակ Իմ բաբուվանքերում էլ չի հնչում զանքակ Քյուղու քաղաքներ են անհայակրակ Քյուղու քաղաքներ են անհայակրակ Երեյ այլ երթան մեր բաբու երկիրը Արի եղբայր երթան մեր բաբու երկիրը Sweet stone kiss carero խաչքարերում հայրական
Glendale Library Arts and Culture's Reflect Space Gallery presents Sites of Fracture, Diasporic Imaginings of Occupied Artsakh, a virtual exhibition that brings together diaspora and Armenian artists from the United States, Canada, and Germany to build collective counter-narratives to the forces of occupation and cultural erasure in the Republic of Artsakh.
Սարերի կամի, որտեղից ես գալիս, և ուր ես շտապում, անհանգիստ ու ախորն իմ սարերի կամի.
The global Armenian diaspora was gripped by the collective trauma of watching a campaign of ethnic cleansing unfold via digital screens and social media. As indigenous Armenian heritage faced systemic destruction, diaspora and Armenian artists responded with projects that counter the attempted erasure of Armenian identities and histories. The artists and cultural workers in this exhibition are Kami Abrahamian, Ali Kat of Entangled Roots Press, Silvina Dermagerdician, Nare Mekirchian, Nelly Sargassian, She Loves Collective, Scout Tufangjan, Anahit Yajan, and Yerazad Coalition. Sites of Fracture, co-curated by Mashinka Firuns Hakopian, Ara Oshagan, and Anahit Oshagan, gestures towards the repatriation of ancestral lands. The virtual exhibition takes place in the photographically reconstructed fortress of the city of Shushi, Artsakh's historical cultural capital, now occupied by Azerbaijan. Sites of Fracture imagines a decolonized Shushi and an independent Republic of Artsakh.
գալ չէի կարող։ Ինչքան էլ օքից լիներ անկարող։ Առանց քեզ հիմա արևն արև չէ։ Առանց քեզ արդեն օրն օրվա պես չէ։ Եկել եմ պապ ջան, եկել եմ ցավով, եկել եմ ներս լցված կարոտով, եկել եմ սրտիս անհակ վրեժով, եկել եմ լցվում եմ մարտիկի ոգով, եկել եմ տղեր, որ ասեմ բարև, եկել եմ ասեմ հեյ կարմիր արև, ինչու խլեցիր կյանքերը կիսած, 18 գարուններ մնաց անավարտ, եկել եմ տղեր, փարվեմ ձեր սառը քարին, ծաղիկներ սփռեմ շիրմաքարերին, եկել եմ տղեր, որ ասեմ լսում եք, ձեր կիսատ գործը պիչ շարունակենք, կորցրած հողերը մենք ետ կբերենք։
Let us say that it is again 1915, there is war in the world. Destroy Armenia. See if you can do it.
Can you see me?
Do you know my story?
I'm your friend.
I'm your neighbor. I'm across the street.
I'm across the world.
Իմ պապի պապը կարսից է։ Ես պայքարում եմ նրա իրավունքների համար։
Ես շարունակում եմ իմ նախնիների պայքարը։
Ես Սիրիայից եմ։ Սիրիահայերը մինչ օրս հիշում են եւ պահանջում։
Ես Արցախից եմ։ Արցախը շտկելու էր մեջքը։ Արցախը եւս պահանջատեր է։
Ես ծնվել եմ Երևանում։ Ես վանեցի եմ։ Ես փորձում եմ իմ ձայնը լսելի դարձնել աշխարհին։
Ես հետապնդում եմ հայ ժողովրդի պահանջատիրությունը։
Ես շարունակելու եմ հիշել եւ պահանջել, ստեղծագործել եւ արարել։
Ես հավատում եմ մեր հաղթանակին։ Ես հավատում եմ մեր միասնությանը։
Հայն ու Հայաստանը ամեն ինչից վեր։
Ես հավատում եմ մեր բաղվա օրվան, նոր սերնդին եւ իմ ուսանողներին։
Will you join us?
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 Will you join us? Will you join us?
Will you join us?
Destroy Armenia. See if you can do it.
We need to do better as citizens of the world to be a voice for people whose shouts for justice are being silenced. What can we do today? We can call out smaller injustices when we see them, name-calling, stereotyping, everyday exclusions. If enough people say something, we can greatly reduce the hatred and intolerance. The genocide is the one communal experience that binds Armenians because so many are descended from survivors. Each year, Armenians wait to see how the leader of the free world will describe the events of April 24, 1950, with hope in our hearts that pre-election promise will be fulfilled with a declaration that egregious events that took place in the Ottoman Empire and later Republic of Turkey constituted a genocide. Mr. President, we join the Armenian American community, Armenians around the world, and all people of goodwill in honoring the memory of the victims of the Armenian genocide. Our brothers and sisters fought to defend the Armenian people, and it is our responsibility to do whatever we possibly can to aid them. You can help by speaking up against the countless Armenian prisoners of war being held by Azerbaijani forces and by donating to non-profits that are serving the people of Armenia and Artsakh. History cannot be rewritten. Let's call it what it is.